My guest tonight is a versatile and talented actress and a native of Wisconsin, as we were just discussing, who has graced the stage, the screen, streaming platforms all over the world with her diverse and captivating roles. She's played a Vulcan science officer on Star Trek Picard, a badass alter ego on Doom Patrol, a stone cold killer on MacGruber, and of course a professional wrestler on Young Rock. She's also a survivor, an advocate for breast cancer awareness, who has shared her personal and inspiring journey on her blog and podcast. In my humble opinion, she is one of the most interesting and inspiring people in the entertainment industry today. So everybody, give a huge welcome. Please welcome to the show, the incredible Stephanie Czajkowski. We've met in person. We met at Contropolis, New Jersey. We had such a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you. You were very giving of your time. I remember it was your first ever convention.
The very first one.
And you were so excited and personable and willing to chat. And so I was like, man, when I had because I had posted the clip online and I saw you had shared, I was like, well, now we've definitely got to bring her on the show. So thank you.
I put one character into one show and I was like, whatever. And I was like, when there was a Vulcan in Doom Patrol, I don't even know.
Your work is incredible. I mean, obviously everybody's already like Hammerhead, like in the chats. It's awesome. It speaks to your amazing work. So obviously, before we dive into the work, which I love and we need to hear about and need to talk about, let's get to know you a little bit. All right, let's take a few minutes to get to know you. That's what I love about this style of interviews. We've got time. We got all the time in the world. So my first question, same question I always ask everybody: what is, if you have any, what is your military connection?
Both my grandfathers, my great uncles, and two of my actual uncles all served. My grandfather actually was not old enough to enlist in World War II and lied about his age so that he could enlist in the Army.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He was 17 and he was like, screw you people, I'm out.
Stories like that just blow me away. I mean, we're not going to go and get into a whole tangent about it, but you see where today's like, man, nobody wants to serve. And there were people in that day. There's a reason it was called the Greatest Generation. These guys were lying so that they could serve. Anyway, sorry. God bless them. That's amazing. That's awesome.
When there's a Veterans Day, there's always this picture because he was one of 13 and he had 7 brothers and they were all in different branches of the Army. And they're all just like, and they also happen to be pretty handsome too. So they're like, by a plane, anyway,
right.
All in their uniforms.
The 1950s pinup style,
all in their uniforms, like, hey.
I love it. As always, everybody, if you have questions for Stephanie, by all means, put them in the chat. We will get to them as appropriate as we have time for and as they fit into the conversation. There's already questions coming in about Star Trek Legacy and a few other things. We'll touch on that. We'll get there.
Try to hit them all, man.
We will absolutely get there. So now that we know a little bit about your military connection, first and foremost, this is a pop culture show. So what do you geek out about, right? Is it movies, TV, games, music, wrestling, whatever it is? What's your geek thing?
What's weird about me, I think, is that I've never been someone who's like one singular thing. I'm just like, oh my God. And the thing I love about acting is as I start to pick something up and then I'm fully in. So I was always aware of WWE. I was hyper aware of China. But once I played her, I went to my first WrestleMania. And so now I'm watching and I'm like, what is The Rock doing? Now he's a heel again. Oh my God. My father watched Star Trek and Star Trek was the first movie I went to see. I was more of a Star Wars generation. So, my brothers and I used to play big Harrison Ford fan. And, Indiana Jones. So we used to pretend like we were rappelling off the back deck. So it ran the gamut, really. It really ran the gamut. And as I got older, I started becoming more aware of comic books and just, ended up dating people who were super nerds. And as a result, it kind of just rubs off on you. And I'm so grateful. I'm friends with all of them still, but like, I'm just so grateful because I get super juiced about weird stuff here and there. Like, we went to see a couple years ago, I can't remember the name of the man who wrote it, like the guy who did all the Schoolhouse Rocks. So it's, Elvis. I'm a giant Elvis fan, but like everything pins back a little bit it all pins back just to a lot of times my work, because it offers me the opportunity to explore stuff that I don't already know,
Oh, that's incredible. Which, by the way, you just gave hope to so many nerds out there. Where they're like, oh my God, someone like her would date nerds and super nerds? Like, so many guys are like, so there's a chance.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Speaking of personal questions, this is a question from the chat. Did she ever decide on a new mattress brand?
Oh God, yes. So here's what I did, because I'm also very cheap. So when I went to a different Comic-Con in Rochester, when I went to Nerdin' Out Con, I slept on a bed that I highly recommend in the Staybridge Suites, which was a beauty rest, St. Chappelle. And legitimately, everyone who's staying there was just like, this mattress, oh my God, this mattress is the best thing ever. So what I did is I looked at it side by side on my laptop and my desktop, and I tried to like go back and figure out if I could get one that was, because they're kind of pricey if you buy them from the hotel. And I ended up finding a comparable one from Costco. It is coming next week. We will see how it goes, but Costco also allows me to return it. So if it doesn't go well, it might be a return situation. I might have to buy the bullet. That's where I am in the mattress.
There you go. Stay tuned, guys. Follow her on social media. We're gonna keep you updated on the current status.
I do way too much research. Like I do way too much research.
Let's say that. Add it to the list of things you geek out about. Is like mattresses, researching. Okay, I'll tell you, as someone who injuries and military, a good night of sleep, a good mattress makes all the difference. Yeah. Absolutely all the difference.
It really does.
So obviously, again, before we dive into your work, because I really want to talk about that. I mean, you have a story. You have a history, obviously, with cancer and these things. And I'm always fascinated because people in your position, you're in the entertainment industry, you have a platform, you have a presence, people know you and you don't know them kind of vibe. And so I'm always curious to know people's charitable causes, like what's important to you. So I know obviously that's a big one. So I wanted to give you a moment if you wanted to promote something, talk about it. Where can people learn about it? Where should people donate? That kind of thing. I want to give you a few moments to talk about that.
Like there's so many things. And also, like there's so many things. Well, there's so many places to put money, especially I am a huge proponent of cancer research. I also am a fitness instructor. I work for a place called Equinox Fitness and Clubs, but they do something every year called Cycle for Survival. And it was a fundraiser that was for rare cancers because someone passed away and they wanted to raise money for Memorial Sloan Kettering. I'm not participating this year because they changed the dates and it got all funky. But my mother was treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering because she had a rare cancer. And the money that gets donated to those rides goes towards cancer research, and it all goes there. Because that's the one thing that gets weird with me about fundraisers and stuff. Like I'm a big fan of just being like, GoFundMe, done. This in particular, all the money that gets raised goes towards the research of rare cancers, but it always lends itself to, as you're researching rare cancers, it also helps with cancers that are really well known. So for me, that really is, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cycle for Survival is a really good charitable cause. And in my mind, to donate money because you know that it's actually going to the place it's intended to go to. Other than that, I'm literally just kind of like, when people need a hand, give them money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, yes, cancer, but also just paying it forward. Like there is not I got invited to a very some sort of swank, like $1,000 a ticket. And I'm like, I don't got that money, yo. but you show me a GoFundMe and I got $50 to throw there. Like, I feel like the more we pay it forward to one another whenever we can, the better it makes the world in general.
I love to say, leave it better than you found it. You know,
Exactly.
you can do that. Every day, you win. You win. And of course, we're all nerds here. So I have to ask you some type of random nerdy question that I could use as a clickbait social media clip later. So if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? Would you use it for good or possibly evil?
Well, I mean, it depends on, who I was. Some people would think I was evil in what I was doing, right? It vacillates between teleportation and it's between teleportation and being able to read minds. Like somewhere in between there. I think it's probably more teleportation because the ability to like teleport in and maybe steal things from bad people, kind of do a little Robin Hood-y, a little bit of Robin Hood action. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a teleportation fan myself. I agree. All the other power, like it just saves so much time. It's so efficient.
It really does. And also, yeah, and I like planes. I mean, I don't mind traveling. But the idea that I could just be like, or do the little, the little wiggle of the nose.
Yes. You can get beamed somewhere. Sure. All right. Last question. In the getting to know you round, little Stephanie, before discovering the passion for acting and the acting bug, what did you think, like when you were young and you were like, oh, I'm gonna grow up to be this thing? What was the thing? What was it before acting?
It wasn't. It was always acting. Like it was when I was, there was nothing else. Which I think sometimes a lot of actors are like, this is it. But yeah, my story as it goes, and it's true, is I was watching a rerun when I was 5, I think, of the Brady Bunch. It was on after school when I'd come home, and it'd been in syndication forever because it wasn't on anymore. But it was when Cousin Oliver came on that I was like, well, they have other kids. I can be on this. And I made my mom write a letter to the affiliate station to see how I could be on the Brady Bunch. And they actually wrote back, and it's somewhere in the piles of, like, it's somewhere, I think, that they wrote back and were like, well, the Brady Bunch isn't on anymore, but if you'd like to do this, you should start acting and modeling. And it was kind of just like all straight ahead from there. Wow. Much to my father's chagrin. Like my dad was like, no, don't do it.
No, I think that's incredible. I think it's incredible. I mean, because in this, especially in this day and age, when with the advent of technology and information being everywhere, like, you could be everything. I remember growing up in the 80s and it was like, whatever was around you, that's what you were going to grow up to be, kind of thing. So I love the idea of like knowing from the get-go, this is what I want to do, regardless of however I got to get to it. I'm curious, how do you define success, right? Happiness. What are those, I don't know, the principles that kind of guide you in your life and career?
I would say that because I am from Wisconsin and because I know that I would not be happy in a 9-to-5 job. Like I have a brother who's a mechanic. He runs an auto shop. I have another brother who's a cop. Like we all have our different things. And success to me is that I have health insurance, because that's really important. Literally, I'm like, I have health insurance because of my work. But also the fact that I get to do what I want to do. Like I get to pursue it. And I don't work all the time, but I could have such, I guess, not even worse jobs, but being an actor is hard work, but it also is such a love, the ability to be able to do it. I'm so lucky to be able to do it. I'm so lucky to be able to pursue it. And sometimes you forget because you get a lot of no's, but I think happiness is when you're smart enough to take a moment in the place that you are, wherever that is, and really enjoy the fact that you're alive and that you get to be in this moment. I think it's really, for me, it's that definition has changed over time for lots of reasons. But for me, happiness fulfillment is my happiest moments are in set, whatever I'm doing. But really just being active and, being in that moment, being in the moment, being in life.
Wow, I had to take a pause because I was like, that's so good. That's so good. I'm going to write that down. That's great.
So not to say that I don't go back and forth. I'm like, come on, I want to go back to set, like, because you miss it. But I'm also like, sometimes you have to take a step back, or I feel like wherever you are. And I also feel like, not to like ramble on, but when people die, when deaths happen, when births happen, like there are big moments in everyone's life that kind of crystallize everything down to make you remind you what's important. And there are those brief glimmers of just everything just being so easy. And I wish that for everybody, just that sense of ease and contentment, because I feel like so often so many things are crowding in,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've done so much. Like I've looked through your discography, as it were, and you've a lot of guest appearances. It's the normal trajectory of you start somewhere and you work your way up, and you spot here, spot there, guest star, yada yada. One that made me laugh in a good way is one of the first credits that I could find. If the internet's to be believed, you were an EMT on an episode of I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant.
Yes.
Which admittedly, it was such a guilty pleasure. I used to watch that show.
Oh my God.
I was just like, this is the premise. It's amazing. I'm just curious if any experience, anything you want to share about the episode that you did on that one?
Well, I was trying to be the woman who didn't know she was pregnant, but apparently I was not convincing enough. So they let me be the paramedic, and I got to cut the umbilical cord. It is the first time I was on television. It aired, and this is not to be said, it aired a week after. It was the first time I was on television. It aired a week after my mom passed away. So we were in the Midwest for my mom's funeral, and my very first episode of TV ever was this thing. Yeah. It's so weird. And my husband has known me since then. And he insists, he's like, you have to keep that on your resume. You have to. It has to be there. And if you know what it is, because they had seasons and seasons of it, and you're just like, how do these bitches not know they're pregnant? Like, you're just like, what is going on in the world,
Yes, exactly. I have a child, and I'm like, I was very aware that my wife was pregnant.
Yeah.
Very aware, constantly aware that she was pregnant. But I love that. Yes, please keep it up, because that's such a great thing to have on there. It's the first thing I flashed to when I was looking through.
I think it's also important. I know that like super fancy, or famous people, like I think Michelle Pfeiffer. It's on her IMDb, but she doesn't talk about like Grease 2. And I'm like, I like knowing and reminding myself where I came from, because sometimes this industry is like you have a good run, and then you don't work for a year, and you're just like, and it's you have to be able to see where you've come from, because this particular profession is so much about the journey. Like, people say that and they pay lip service to it, but it is, because if you are not willing to enjoy it, it is going to be a miserable experience.
Yeah, somebody told me once, and it's always stuck in my head. It's like, you don't get paid for the work you're doing. You get paid for all the auditions you fail and you don't get, the rejection of it. So I was like, okay.
I had an acting teacher who said that too. He's like, the reason you get paid so much is because if you didn't, you wouldn't stick around. And also because you've done all of this work that you haven't been paid for. And, and people are like, well, because that actually came up a lot during the strikes and stuff, because we work in an industry that I think is we've shined a little more light on how the sausage is made, but we're so good at hiding how the sausage is made that when you're like, and people are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And you're like, oh, that's right. we have made a point to not not destroy the mystery, right? And so it's like there's got to be a middle ground somewhere.
Yeah, that golden age. The streets are lined with gold, and it's all rosy, and it's like we've talked at length on this show, especially because we're huge supporters, and we do what we do here because of what we love your work, and we know that it's can be soul crushing and a grind and all that, and you have to really have a passion for it, and I respect the hell out of that. What you guys do.
Yeah, you do.
There's a couple questions that have come in. Let's start covering some of these. What we got here? If you could choose any franchise to be in for future projects, do any stand out that you would be excited to get a part in?
Well, at this point, I'm trying to finish that quadrant. I've got DC and I have Star Trek. So definitely Marvel. But in particular, there is a video game called Knights of the Eternal Throne. Star Wars, Knights of the Eternal Throne. And I was the new face. Years ago in 2016, they redid the expansion pack. And I played a character named Senya Tyrell. And if they were to make that into a live action, I would want to, with every bone in my body, play that role.
I mean, there is a precedent for, taking a lot of the, I guess, non-canonical stuff, like the cartoons, the video games, all that, and bringing them now into the universe. So, I mean, there's a world.
What the accolade is like, because I'm like, is this I'm just like, what? So yeah.
Okay. One question was he says, question, any updates on Star Trek Legacy that you can share?
Y'all know as much as we do, man. Y'all know as much as we do. Everyone keeps saying the words, and we're hoping, and I think the cast, unequivocally, the cast hopes as much as everybody else does. Because it was a real joy to work on. It was a really, really special set. So, so fingers crossed. We just keep yelling into the void. And PBS is like, all right, we don't know what we're gonna make. We're gonna make this. I don't know.
Hey, you got to keep pounding away. Kind of keep doing the horn and the petitions and all that. Make it happen. Let's see. Doom Patrol. We got to talk about Doom Patrol because. I mean, one of the craziest shows I think I've ever just watched, period. Yeah. I always joke. It's like I'll watch. I mean, I could literally finish one episode, start the next episode, and feel like I missed 3 episodes just because it's one of those kind of wild, everything's getting thrown at you. What was it like to, not to knock and say, oh, I'm sure you weren't aware of it. I'm a huge comic book nerd. I barely knew Doom Patrol. So what was it like stepping into that? And what information were you given at the beginning to make sense of it all?
Not a whole lot at the top. Because when I auditioned, I knew what it was. I knew it was Doom Patrol. And I knew it was Grant's version of it, which I'm a huge fan of Happy. I love his writing, and Happy was fantastic and dark and funny in the way that I really, really like. So when we went in, they basically had a general idea of who these characters were based on the graphic novel or based on the comic books. And casting basically was like, all right, so this is it. And there was a point where we were auditioning because Diane had already done, she had already started. She was probably on episode, we were going to do it. So she was in 7 or 8. And so she already had all of these characters that she had brought to the surface. And at one point they were like, we're going to show you what she does. And then they couldn't get the editing. They'd gotten permission and the editing bay was there, but we couldn't see it. So it was kind of like, you do your best. And then you get to set. And what was lovely about it, at least that very first episode that I appear in season 1, is it was all the Janes. There were just Janes aplenty, which was fucking amazing. And Diane was already there and had an idea of who they all were. And so she was incredibly helpful and generous and being like, okay, this person like this one likes this one, and kind of she didn't give me, it was interesting because in our own ways, even though we hadn't talked about it, we played it similarly, I think. Because I know that one of the notes that they had given when we were auditioning is that Jane was, or Diane was a small person, and that when a small person is being big and standing up to people, they're more like they were comparing it to a dog, like, like, and I am of a bigger stature, and I was like, okay, but my visage, like my head, like that does that job. But also, as you start to get into, how it's a multiple personality and how this is a variation of yourself, if that person is this huge person on the outside, even if it's embodied in, Diane's body, it's going to be the embodiment of a bigger person in there, so it was, so those were the things they gave us. And before I went to set, I basically just bought volumes 1 and 2 and I just binged them. I just read them. Not knowing how true to it they would be,
Right.
but just so I would have a sense of what it was. And also, one of my favorite parts of the job, man. One of my favorite parts of the job is being like, oh, what is this new thing,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's funny because now that you're talking it through, I'm thinking back to watching it, and I did get a sense of Hammerhead specifically, almost being an exaggerated like version of a tough guy. Like, cause
Yeah.
like there's tough guys, right? And then there's like the guys that are like peacocking, or they're trying to look tough, but
Right.
almost small. It's weird. It's that weird dichotomy of like she's tough and you could tell she's tough, but also like she's hiding this insecurity and
Oh God. Oh
it,
God.
it yeah, man, that well done, because I got it, and now that I'm thinking back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Speaking of getting into the character, what was it like, the daily transformation from Stephanie to Hammerhead? What did that look like?
Well, thankfully, the first season I had no hair because I coincidentally I was going through chemo, and I had gone through my third round of chemo, and when I knew that I was going to lose my hair, I made a choice of just getting headshots. I was like, well, I'm going to get headshots because I figured I didn't know if I'd work again, but I figured I could at least get in on cancer commercials.
I mean,
So I was like, I'm just going to shave my head and we're going to do headshots. So the first season, so season 1, it was, my hair was not growing back. They kind of shaved it down again because they put makeup all the way around my skull so that everything matched. And then, the other makeup. So it was not terribly long. Like makeup generally for women, but like they were doing special stuff with my eyes, and my look kind of changed from season to season a little bit depending on who was doing it. But it usually take about an hour and a half.
yeah.
And then season 2 was a little longer because I shaved my head. We agreed because my hair had grown back, and they were like, she's coming back and we need her to be bald. And my agent was like, well, she has hair, but she'll shave it if you pay her. Like, so we got like a bump, which I'm really thankful for, because one of the episodes, I had a stunt double in 2 episodes, and one of them they had to bald cap her. Oh my God, it took so long. So in a lot of ways, I didn't mind it because I had already lived with it and I dug it. So I just shaved my head, and then they would shave it every morning. It grows pretty fast, so they'd shave it down again. And then, so that took some extra time. So it was about 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah. And the character had like tattoos and stuff, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they applied those.
And I actually have, one of the makeup artists gave me a copy of them, and they were all just like temporary, like that you rub on the same way you would, some days, there would be some days where I'm like, I'm not doing anything tonight. I got to come back tomorrow. I can just leave it on until tomorrow. I'll just be careful when I shower.
Nice. Yeah, the amount of commitment in that goes, it's just so much, so much. So it's funny, man. The dark humor, again, military. So dark humor is kind of our thing, And so, you know, you were saying, well, you know, I could do the cancer commercials. I was like, I've heard of actors going method, but Jesus, man, you took
I
it
know,
next
right?
level.
I'm just like,
Sorry.
here we go. Do you talk about death? I can talk about death. Yeah. Like, you know, not you, but seriously, you know, we'll see roles come down and I'll be like to my agents, I'll be like, hey, they need someone who knows how to die or, you know, is familiar with it. Like use it.
Yeah.
You know, it's life experience. It's, you know, we are playing human beings.
Yeah. Well, it's
You know,
amazing.
and that is part of life.
Use it when you're like, I had that puppy that died when I was 6. Like, use it you know, everywhere you can. I'm curious, how do you relate to like Hammerhead's personality, the backstory? You know, where does, you know, the art blend into life, and where are you guys kind of completely opposed?
I feel like a little bit. I don't know if this is for me. I've heard other actors say this, but this is at least in the probably since Hammerhead specifically, as roles have gotten a little bit deeper and haven't been like, I'm just holding a gun, you know, I'm just holding a gun and a dog. And like, there was a guy over there who did something, right? I feel as if they've come into my life because I need to learn something about myself. Hammerhead, I come from a family, I come from specifically, you know, my dad and one of my brothers who was like my dad, and I who am like my dad, who are very familiar with anger. Well, not use anger in a way because they can't express their emotions. And so for me, I felt like that connection to Hammerhead was, I really understood just because I feel like people who are really angry out in the world and express anger, like they move through the world only expressing anger, and anger is just a manifestation of fear. It's a manifestation of, usually it's a manifestation of fear, really, right? Or depending upon what it's for, I feel like when it comes to Hammerhead, it's a manifestation of love and protection and all these ideas that get convoluted because someone doesn't know how to process what that is. So, and I feel like I've had lots of therapy, and a very long time, but also I feel like, oh, I understand that. I understand that. I think there was, and also as I started playing her, the writers gave me more to play with because I think it could have been very easy to just make her angry and just be like, oh, I'm tough, as opposed to I approached it. There's a reason why she has such rage, and where does that rage come from? You know what I mean? Because, you know, all of our emotions stem from somewhere else. My stepfather used to say, everything is love or, you know, everything is love or fear. And then everything kind of branches out from there. You know?
Yeah. There was definitely, and I know we touched on it a bit before, but there was a hint of vulnerability, of almost innocence, of something under it, and in each scene, I remember that, like, it shines through, you know, the tough exterior. So,
well, I also think, I was going to say, and I also think because you get to see her as opposed to out in the world where she's just like, oh, fucking fuck, is because you're inside Jane's head and interacting with these other personalities, you get to see a little bit more of that dimension, I think, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Right? You're talking to yourself. You're honest with yourself. That makes total sense. Ugh. It's like, you know, the character or something. I don't know. I'm here trying to tell you what the character's like.
Well, I feel that. And sometimes stuff comes along that, like, there's been more than one that you just like, you see it, you read it, you get the audition, and you just feel it deep in your gut. You're like, oh yeah. You just kind of know. It's a weird, like an otherworldly, like, which is lovely.
I've talked to so many actors who have said, like, oh, you know, when I read for that role, I knew I got it. You just you know, because you hear this sort of like, oh, I felt like I did really well, but it didn't happen. That's part of the gig. Yeah. But like, this is like, I walked out and I knew it was mine. I knew it happened, and I can't compare that to anything where I'm like, I knew I nailed that spreadsheet at work, you know, like whatever it is.
I was really like, dude, you got to beat this bald head. I mean, and it was also like, for me, it was like, I think this would be great. I really want to get this. And I also had like another cancer test the next day. So it was real easy to just be like, well, whatever, either. And I think that's also, at least for me in cancer, and also as actors just get to a place where like, just fuck it. This is what I am. This is what I have to give you. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But I think a lot of times we also want to, we want to be liked. We want to do the right thing. And it's funny how much power just being like, this is it. Not trying to fight, like, this is it. Take it or leave it.
It is what it
and
is.
If it doesn't work, then great,
Nice. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's switch gears a little bit because you were also in MacGruber, which I think is such a wild. I mean, Will Forte and all, like, just out of control. How do you prepare for a role like was it Bex Dawson on something like that? And were you familiar with a lot of the stuff beforehand, or like you said, when you got it, you caught up?
So it's funny because they had a breakdown that a friend had sent me, and it was like a very wide age range. It was like 30 to 50. And I was like, and I said to my agents, and I'm like, guys, like tough. And I was like, could you hang with the boys? Was a soldier, was supposed to be like special forces. And I was like, guys, and my hair was like just growing back. And I sent it to my agents and I said, please submit me on this. Cause again, same thing. I just had this feeling, and it didn't happen. I didn't get an audition. And like a month went by, and they re-released it and they aged it up. And it went from like 40s to 50s. And my hair had started growing back, and it was like a little gray and whatever. And I said, guys, can you submit me in this again? Like, I have this feeling, and I just have this feeling. And I know that I want to go, if I get like, I don't know that she's going to talk a lot, because, sometimes we get caught up in that. But I was like, but I get to go play with Will Forte and Kristen Wiig, and I'll be able to shoot guns. Like, I'll be able to do all those things. And it came back, and I got an audition. It was like a same-day self-tape. I flew to Vegas to go take care of my niece and nephew. And luckily, I talked to my other brother. I have a brother in Vegas, and he has 2 kids. And I have another brother in the Midwest. And I was like, I have to watch them come in so you're not outnumbered, right? Because that's the plan. And I landed, and I got a call that said I was like pinned, and I was on a plane on that Sunday to Albuquerque. It was just like boom, boom, boom. So it was me watching the first MacGruber, because the guys were doing it, the same guys. And then it was just kind of taking a look at who Bex was. Because again, in the same way, a little bit similar to Hammerhead, you had this person who just wanted to kill Will Forte, right? And so it was, why? Why does she have this much rage? She's with her, she's with her special forces team. I'm just using the wrong verbiage. But they are her brothers in combat. They have all been locked away for 20 years. And so it was more like just being able to marinate in the idea of like, what would happen if somebody did something and I lost 20 years of my life? Like, what would that be like? And it just kind of came from there. And part of it was, Will's the funny one. So everyone is, and they were very specific. They're like, play this straight. You are playing this like it is an action movie, which I'm like, great. So that's how you play it. And Will and Kristen are, Will, Kristen, and Ryan are the ones who are the funny. And you're just there to be their straight man. So it was phenomenal. And our armorer was ex-military. So like, and a lot of our extras were ex-military too. Cause I was like, please show me how to hold this gun properly. Like I did a little bit of, I went and did a little bit of arms training after I'd come back, but I was like, please make sure I don't look like an asshole. Like I'm not teacup, like just please make it like, let me know so that I do not look like people are like, oh my God.
Yeah. We especially military guys.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. We hate it, the trigger discipline and wrong eyes closed, looking down the scope, the whole thing. It's so we're so used to it by now.
You have to adjust some of it for camera, but also just, it's one of those things that I'm not, I'm not anti-gun or whatever, like safety guns, but I was just like shooting those guns. And the thing that I was very appreciative of even though we were shooting blanks is what I realized is I'm like, oh, if you were doing a scene with weapons, and you have people who are doing it right, it takes a long time because they're always like checking, like everything's cold, hot. Everybody knows you do not have a hot weapon in your hand until it's time. Like, and the very first time I shot it, something flew off my partner's thing and hit me on the nose. I got a hit with like a shell. My very first scene. But it gives me such an immense amount of respect for guns always, but also just knowing how to handle them correctly. Like I feel like we get there's people who are just like, it's fun, and I'm like, no guys, it's not. Like these are magnificent machines and you really should know how to use them.
Yeah. Well, it's akin to, driving a car. It's fun, it's freedom, it's powerful, but you're sending a missile down the highway. Like you need to know how to properly operate it. What are the rules? What are regulations, safety, precautions, all that stuff. So yeah. Well, I agree completely.
The recoil, come on. Yeah.
I mean, for some of us,
you get used to it. You get used to it, but
being around comedy legends, I can imagine it's a bit intimidating. Was there a lot of improvisation happening, or was it mostly like sticking religiously to the script?
My stuff was sticking to the script. Will and Kristen were, there was some improv there. I have to say unequivocally that Will Forte, and I will carry this to the grave, everyone should take, every number one on the call sheet should take a class from Will Forte, because he is one of the most generous people, one of the most giving actors. He had also written it, and he's like got his hand, like he's brilliant. He's a tsunami of just creativity, but also he is genuinely interested in everyone on set, and he makes everyone feel like they are his equal, even no matter who they are. And so they are comedy legends, but they are some of the coolest, nicest people ever. Nicest. I went to his, by accident, my husband and I went to his wedding reception. He had a surprise wedding, and we were like sitting in the lobby, and everyone's like, come on up. And we're like, that's Ted Danson. Like, next thing we know, everybody's partying together. But it's just really good, real people, who happen to be incredibly, incredibly talented.
Yeah. Do you recall any like really challenging moments on it, something you struggle with, or maybe or on the opposite end, just something really fun that you had while filming some of the scenes?
It was very hot. There was one day that was just incredibly, we were in Albuquerque and it was a summer, and it was just incredibly hot. And I just remember being in like these great outfits that were like leather, and I'm just like sweating balls, like trying to be like, I'm so serious. And just Will, like, I just remember that there's one of the very first scenes we're in where he's like just naked out in the middle of like a field, and it's the first day that Billy Zane got there, and he's naked in front of a little girl, and he's like being like very nice, like, I'm so sorry, like he's just, it's so weird and so funny to just watch that happen, because it's like one moment he's like, I'm buck naked and crazy, and then the next minute he's just like, so anyway, da 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 da. It's just that kind of back and forth.
Yeah, he's got that switch in him. I like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that switch to write but like he can just go back and forth. Like it's remarkable. It's just remarkable.
Crazy. Moving through some of your other work, you got to be, and we touched on this earlier, China for Young Rock.
I did.
What was that like? Because that's a big role to fill. I mean,
oh yeah, and the interwebs they were not friendly to my fellow castmates in certain respects. There was a lot of like, and here's Young Rock, and here's so and so. I don't want to point people out, but here's so and so ordered on Wish. Like that's it. It was it was a real honor. It was a real honor. It was also one of those things that came very last minute. And again, it was like breakdown 20s to 30s, which is not what I am, and they're like 5'10", 200 pounds, muscular. And I was like, need him by Thursday. Like, it came out on a Friday, need you by Thursday. And I was like, the one thing I know about being a tall, strong female body in this industry is, my agent said this to me early on when we first met. He said, look, you are not going to go on auditions all the time. Like, you're just not. He was like, but when you do, you will be very right. And this was one of those things. And I had known about China. And when I was younger, and when I was like 17, going to a gym, like WWE was like, especially, it was her heyday. And I had dudes in the gym, because I used to have long, dark hair, be like, you kind of look like China. You could be. And I was like, I'm not sure, like, thanks. But it was like, not the come on that you want, because we were also at a time, she was also at a point in time where literally the idea of femininity was you were a wafy thin, like, it was such a weird thing. And so basically I saw this, and it turned out I knew the director, and I waited a little bit, and I reached out to my manager, and I was like, look, I know, like, not the age range, but I think I can pull it off. And it's also a time crunch. And they were like, okay. And we literally got it. And I had a call back that morning for a commercial. And they're like, we need it by noon. And I was like, I can't do that. I got to tan up. Like, I can't. And they gave me an extension. And so it was literally that I got it that morning. I went out and I bought a wig because my hair looked like this. And I was also just like, you are not going to be able to look at me like this and see China. You're just not. So I went and bought like a terrible wig that I wore, and it turned out that they picked me. And Thursday I was on a plane to Memphis, and the next thing I knew, I was straight up absorbing and watching as much WWE as I can, and watching SummerSlam 1998 over and over and over again. Watching anything I could find with Joni in it. Just to get a sense of who she was. So that instead of playing a caricature, which I think, again, is easy, is to really try and honor her, to really, have a sense of honoring who she was as a person, and who she was while embodying that persona.
Yeah. I can imagine there's a sense of pressure when portraying a real person, a real living person. They meant something to someone, to lots of people, and this isn't just like, well, I decided my character is going to be like this. Like, this is really, like you said, trying to honor who that person was. I mean, do you consider something like that? Do you like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, do I want to do that?
Well, what I will say is that I was like, there was part of me that's like, a part of me was like, if you had given me 3 or 4 months, I could put on more, like, because there's that thing of like, I mean, generally we're like, we're not skinny enough. And I was like, I'm not big. I'm going to try and get as big as I can, but I've lost muscle mass from cancer. Like, part of me is like, 3 years ago, I had a bitter body for this, but you're just like, you know what? You take the chance when you get it. And thank God for hair and makeup, and costumes, and just, I have a little bit up in here, like with that, I look a little bit like her, but there was nothing like going to set the first day when we're doing the ladder match, and they've set up the ladder mat, they've set up the arena, and there's all these extras who are actual WWE fans. And I walk through that door, I walk through the curtain, and I come out, and people were literally like, China! Oh my God, it's China! And it was so surreal, because I was just like, oh my God, they made you feel like China. Some of our wrestling coordinators, one of them who was playing a referee, his name is escaping right now, but they were fantastic. he literally at one point was just like, I used to work with Joni and it's freaky. You look so much like her. So it was really like, it was little bits, little tiny bits of that in doing it to just be like, all right, we're just going to let this fly because I can only do what I can do. And I just got to trust that what I've found in her, as long as I'm doing it in my estimation, I'm like, as long as I'm doing it with love, that will shine through. Like that was my, and it was just real. It was really, really just surreal to, be there and like be with Triple H and be with, everybody playing and everybody, all the guys were fantastic, but just the reaction of the crowd, I did not expect at all. Like I did not expect that.
You got to channel a little bit of the real feeling of coming out.
Just in a way that I just really, really did not. That is not what I expected at all.
Where when you're filming something like that, I'm with them doing characters of all these living wrestlers. Did you get to meet anybody? Were anybody around watching the filming?
No, the Rock came like 2 days before. No, but it was just the guys. It was just all the guys playing. It was like Luke and everybody, and Uli and everybody who's playing the characters. Right. But they were they were fantastic. Like they had been working together for a year and a half, and I had a good friend of mine, Kif. God, I can't remember who he plays off the top of my head. But we had worked together, and we had played husband and wife on a show called The Thundermans. And so we had a reunion, we hadn't worked together in like 8 years, and suddenly we're on this show together. But it was just, it's great to come to a show. I think oftentimes also in shows that are out of town or on location, because the cast and crew tends to get a lot closer because it's like shooting a movie. It's like you're all you have. And so you get welcomed into that family. And, it is one of those things. It's like, Will Forte, number one and down, The Rock and everything he does as well is just, you're treated with such love and care.
Yeah, we had a couple months ago, we had Bradley Constant, who played the middle-aged Rock, teenage Rock. We had him on the show. What a wonderful kid, man. Really good, fun kid. We're running short on time, and you have so much, like there's so much stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to keep up too much of your time, but let's talk about Star Trek Picard.
Like, you got me, so I mean, I'm like, you can greet me, it's fine.
We'll be here all night. I'm just kidding. I think the longest record was Eddie McClintock talked for 2.5 hours. So he really had a lot to say. It was a good dude, fun guy. So Star Trek Picard.
Yes.
You talked about, your dad was a fan. When that kind of comes across, is this something where you're like full gung ho? I have to do this. Is it more like, man, I'd like to do this. I'm not sure if I'm right for it. What was your feeling for it?
When it comes across, you're just like, ooh, I just got up. I had just wrapped like a week before. I had just wrapped MacGruber. And I came in and it was just an audition to be a science. All we knew was science officer, not the same name, no species, just some words. And that night I actually had 2 auditions at the same time, and I reshaped my head for both of them. And one was for the resident and for this. And they don't tell you what it is because they're trying to keep it top secret. And I'm like, I think this is Star Trek Picard. And I'm like, science officer. This feels like a Vulcan, and you just do it and you hope. And they were going pretty fast because they decided that they were just going to do, because of COVID, because everything was already in place, they were going to do, they shot season 2 and then just rolled right into season 3. So they were still finishing up season 2, but in like a week and a half, they were going to roll into season 3. So it, again, was one of those things where tape, and the next day, they're like, yeah, we want you. And it was like, okay, here we go. And yeah, I mean, and it was one of those things. I got what they call pinned, meaning like, we're pinning you. We like you for this role. We're not going to offer it to you. I got pinned for both projects. And I was like, well, whatever offers first. And my agents were like, and I'm like, they're like, well, what do you know, and I was like, and one of them, you know, the role that was on this other show was something that I was super excited about from an acting standpoint. But I was also just like, but I cannot, you know, and you're just like, you can't do everything. And you just kind of let go and let God. And we're like, well, whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. And so, yeah. So I ended up as a science officer, and I got to go, you know, I went in for my multiple costume fittings because those outfits, my mom used to make them. My mom was a seamstress, and she used to, when Voyage Home came out, she did the Admiral outfit with the white and the maroon.
Yeah.
That shit is hard to make. Those are very specific. So you know, they were redoing our costumes as well. So we had a couple of costume fittings, and I remember the first one, you know, they tried on the Vulcan wigs. They decided I was going to be Vulcan because we tried on the ears. Like, it was decided. If I made a choice, they agreed with the choice. I got there, put on the Vulcan. I have pictures of it somewhere. I looked terrible. I looked real bad. Like when you look actually at China, she's got the bangs, and I'm like, oh, it's like kind of Vulcan-y, you know. But they were like, you know, I looked a little bit like I belonged on Galaxy Quest. And we tried on the ears, and I was getting ready to leave, and the production secretary called, and Justin was like, hey, Terry wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay, great. And, you know, you're like, oh, showrunner. And then you meet Terry, who's just like, hey, great. And you're just like, oh my God, thank you for being so open, because when you work on bigger shows that have been around for a while, you're kind of lower on the totem pole, right? You're just like, it's kind of working for a corporation a little bit. And I had gotten this experience where Doom Patrol and then MacGruber, and this was so just like, you are a part of this, which changes how you know, attack something. You're so much more invested when you feel so included, you know? And he was like, so you have a shaved head, bald, like, should we bald? Is it bald Vulcan? I don't know. Like, what do you think? And I was like, well, I don't know. He's like, well, let's think about it. I'm like, okay, here's my email, go home, research, and look for, you know, bald Vulcans to make sure the canon cops aren't going to get you. Cause, you know, like, you got to make sure, right? And I found some old, you know, there were male Vulcans, and there were older Vulcans. And this was further in time, you know, in time and space, hundreds of years after the original series. So I was also like, well, I've got the bald head. And I was like, what if she's part Deltan? And, you know, and he was like, I like it.